We keep and bear arms, affirming our inalienable, natural endowed rights, creator endowed rights, training in handgun martial arts, neither for sport nor competition, but for the refinement of the virtues of the citizen warrior, establishing justice, and always with the aid of divine providence, defense of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When divine providence calls, we answer. That is the motto of Handgun Martial Arts, HMAC. That is the martial art I founded in 2009. It combines cutting-edge special operations surgical shooting with ancient Japanese warrior practices. And I have my last in-person seminar of the year coming up October 18th in Tucson, Arizona. October 18th, Tucson, Arizona. 8:30 to 5:30, $250. If you want to join me for the 2025 Beginners Summit, don't just shoot, protect, join America's martial art. The gun is not the answer. You are, and learn really great safety. I've never had an accidental shooting, negligent shooting. Disappear in a gunfight, shoot faster in a crisis, stack the odds in your favor. Lots of gunfighting tricks. Plinking and target shooting is not gunfighting. My background, I'm a world-class firearms instructor, served in 7 Special Forces Group, Special Operations Tactics, which is Hostage Rescue School, Qualified Foreign Operations Group, DEA Special Agent, Firearms Instructor, Special Operations Snowcapper, NRA, LEO, Pistol, Shotgun, Rifle Instructor, published author in radio, TV subject matter, a lot in SWAT magazine back in the day. So hopefully you can join us there in Tucson for that HMAC, Handgun Martial Arts Center seminar. Looking forward to it. See somebody there, stay brewed there. If you're in the chaplaincy, there are Capella grants available. Also, remember sat123.com. You can get the Iridium 9555 at no cost if you sign up for a plan with the 24-month agreement. Go to sat123.com. Monthly is $95.55. And also, if you're going into jeffreyprather.com shops, I've got all of the Faraday bag stuff here. And I've just updated that because they're great stuff. So, this is the portable, real easy to carry Faraday bag. And then this is a better, more robust one. We've got a longer one here. And this has got the new magnetic closures. It is really, really nice to use. And then a iPad size one, and then really large ones as well if you need big ones for your laptop as well. And what I really like, and I'm using a lot now, is this new key fob bag. So part of my tactical vehicular training, TVOC, is that you put your keys on your hood or on your bumper or something so that they're always available. You go down, somebody can find them. And this really nifty key fob really seals really, really nice, keeps my keys dry. And of course, there's no emission there. So really like that. That's Faraday Defense. That's in jeffreyprather.com/shop. Everybody in Team America is required to have a Faraday bag so they can bag up. So you're not being listened to, tracked, and your behavior is not being identified, which it is all the time. So lots going on today. FBI J-6 pipe bomb lie blows up. There's 100+ bloated federal bureaucrats resigning today, which is good news from Doge. Trump and BIBI double down on Gaza. Charlie's murder scene is completely obliterated. That's how we know it's a cover-up. And we're going to have fireman whistleblower ERIK HOLT on voter fraud shortly. And after the U.S. 2020 defeat, China wages unrestricted war on Mexico next. So that's what's going on. To jump right into it. More than 100,000 federal employees are reportedly set to resign today. That's great. This is Doge slashing jobs. Federal workers were presented with generous buyouts. So that's some good news. Starting off with some good news, just to get rid of all the bureaucrats. The government's way too big. It just keeps getting bigger, and they're not working for us. So we'll see if 100,000 do resign today, but that is certainly a step in the right direction. Of course, departments like Department of Education should completely go away. They have not. But That is a step in the right direction. Also, you probably saw Trump and Netanyahu meeting, talking up their big Gaza plan. Don't have much hope for that, but the plan includes 20 points of action, including the Gaza Strip, a de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors, and seeing the area redeveloped. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. The plan states once that's completed, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners, plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel released the remains of 15 deceased Gazans per the plan. Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence to decommission the weapons will be granted amnesty. Gaza will temporarily be governed by a transitional governance of technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of the public services and municipalities of Gaza. And this body will set forth a framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will be on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. That is a big, big stretch. Under the plan, a Trump economic development plan for the Gaza Strip will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. The plan will also see a special economic zone established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. No one will be forced to leave Gaza. Those wishing to leave will be free to do so. Those who want to stay can. So I think this is very much pie in the sky. Don't see this happening at all, basically, because I don't see Israel letting it happen. But it allows for a foil to continue so that the Gazans are not completely wiped out, so that Netanyahu can come back and claim again that there's a threat there as well. But we will see. See you guys on Rumble coming up to comment. That's good. See Earl Jackson there. Stay rude there as well. Support the show at jeffreyprather.locals.com. $9 a month, $90 a year. Appreciate that as well. Or just donate at jeffreyprather.com/support the show. Or go to patreon.com/jeffreyprather and support the show at the $5, $15, or $25 levels. So the government's supposed to shut down pretty shortly, and watch what happens when it shuts down. Nothing happens when it shuts down. Yeah, the Social Security checks and VA checks, those will be delayed. But if you're dependent on the government dole, you're wrong already. Just ask the tribes about that. Get off the government teat. If you get something, it's a nice extra, but don't depend upon it, because that's how they always control you. So great to see the government shut down. Great to see government employees leaving. Lawmakers have no clear path to avoiding the government shutdown that occurs 12:01 a.m. on October 1st without congressional plan. We'll see. I can only hope. I hope it shuts down because they can do less damage. I am not somebody who's worried about the government. I'm not worried about my retirement checks at all. Like I said, if you're relying on the government, just ask the tribes how that works out. Anytime you're relying on the government, they're never going to let you win, whether it's inner city Black family welfare checks, or it's reservation checks, or it's VA, or it's Social Security. It's always designed to weaken you, never designed to empower you. And so don't depend upon it. You've got to be more resourceful than that. Freedom is difficult and dangerous. So the main point of the story today is the FBI is releasing the January 6th Pipebomb lab report. And that and other detailed reports are at the patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather at the $15 level if you want to look at those. So the FBI's lab report on the so-called January 9 pipe bombs was finally released. Why does it take so long? Because they want you to forget about it. And also the witness who discovered the RNC pipe bomb said the kitchen timer showed it only 20 minutes left. left. This suggests that the RNC pipe bomb was planted shortly before it was discovered. The kitchen timers attached to both bombs only had 60 minutes. I'm the person that discovered and alerted the guards to the pipe bomb found next to the RNC. Wanted to identify myself in case there are any additional details I can provide that might be useful to the investigation. The witness wrote to the FBI. According to just the news, I can confirm that the device must have been placed between 12 p.m. and 12:40 p.m. That's really, really exact, because it was not present when I went down to the area to start laundry at 12 p.m., but it was present when I returned to continue the laundry 12:40 p.m., she told the FBI. Big problem with this is documents obtained by Just the News show that the both bombs, one planted at the Democratic National Committee, the other at the Republican National Committee, were filled with chemical building blocks of black powder. Each was equipped with a 60-minute kitchen timer. And most notably, the FBI laboratory report says never uses the word viable. So this is a way of a lab guy going, this ain't for real. He can't come out and say that because he's got to keep his job, but they never use the word viable. They never describe either. And of course, we've said that for a long time. They weren't real bombs. Of course, the 60-minute timer doesn't work because remember, the FBI in January released new footage of the January 6th pipe bomber. And we've been told that they planted the pipe bombs January 5th, the night before. And of course, that doesn't work with a 60-minute timer at all. Their corruption makes them incompetent. Their massive corruption makes them massively incompetent. Their script doesn't hold up. It never does, and it keeps getting worse and worse. And of course, the FBI still can't find the person responsible for, although they found all the January 6 guys and tracked them down, but they can't find this guy. And of all cities are totally tracked, and of course, no city is more tracked than DC, and all the federal agencies, all the intel agencies are right there. So that they can't find this guy. Why can't they find this guy? Because they are in on it. It's very clear that that is the case. And of course, Revolver News posted a video explaining how the FBI manipulated the DNC security footage of the pipe bomber by only posting 1 frame per second rather than the 15 frames per second. And so we know, of course, that they are reholding footage. We know this from the Butler aerial footage that we never got. Remember the Kyle Rittenhouse blurred drone image that was then showed crisper imagery intelligence later on. And so we know that the FBI is manipulating all of this footage as usual. Why? Because they are in on it. The FBI has some kind of pipe bomb fetish. It's some kind of, how can I say this nicely, masculine appendage fetish, making up for something. Because every time they run a false flag, they have to throw a pipe bomb in there as well. And there's also the footage from January 6th showing an individual believed to be police carrying a bag towards the location where the pipe bomb was found at the DMC about 15 minutes before another officer discovered the device. So you don't want to leave it laying around too long because then somebody will find it, like this pesky witness who completely blows the FBI script out of the water. And of course, not one Secret Service agent saw the bomb during a sweep. That's what they do as well. And let's see here. Hi, Cats Meow. Hi, Heather. There. Thanks for reposting the stream. Yeah, please. Small pipe bomb makes hands look big. That's a good one there. And of course, there is now the bombshell coming out that there were 274 agents, at least FBI agents, at January 6th. 274 WFO, Washington Field Office agents, just like out of Michigan. Which we have known for a long time, but they're finally getting around to admitting it. But pathetic pandering Patel goes, but they were there for crowd control, which I guess this is a humiliation ritual that he says this stuff that is so ridiculous. The FBI are not trained for crowd control. They're not riot police. They don't have the gear for that. And of course, they didn't do anything except incite things. The FBI was there undercover, and that doesn't even count the informants that were there, and that doesn't count the other agencies that were there as well. So anyway, this is a too late, too little admission, and it just makes Patel look even more pathetic than before. And some of them are saying, hey, if we're going to be, one agent suggested the problem extended beyond the Bureau to the U.S. Attorney's Office, indicating widespread problem with political bias. Well, that's certainly true. We saw that when Comey would not present the indictment to the Attorney General's office, because the investigators don't decide what to indict. That's the attorney's job. So we knew the fix was in there. But many agents also focused on the Washington field office, and these are complainants, said it's hopelessly broken. They're more concerned about wearing masks and recruiting preferred racist sexual groups than catching the actual bad guys. I saw that back in my day, and that was in the 90s. DEA was full of ex-cops and soldiers. FBI was full of ponytails. And then another one said, if you're going to deploy us, then give us the proper damn safety equipment, helmet, face shield, protective clothing, and training. And so here's a whiny FBI agent complaining that they got a little tear gas after what happened to the J-6ers who were murdered, beat to death, and imprisoned. So it's still all about the FBI. At least 274 undercover agents. That doesn't count the confidential informants. That doesn't count the agents from other agencies as well. And I'd still say that count is probably low as well. But there were agents who raised political bias complaints about this. A response to the Capitol riots reeks of political bias, one wrote. Another said, I wonder if bias has affected our preparedness. We've been used as a political war. FBI leadership fell into the trap, allowed it to happen. This is finally confirmation of this. But what has Patel done about this? Well, there's supposedly some firings, but I don't see much at all. And that's because the FBI is clearly running Patel without a doubt. And there is really no doubt. And now they're talking about how some of the FBI agents were assaulted on January 6th, when, of course, they were the ones leading all of the assault there as well. And we've seen that over and over. But Patel to come out and say, this just astounds me, and I'm not sure why is he that stupid? Is he that corrupt? Is he that captured? Is to come out and say, yeah, FBI agents were there, but they were sent into crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, which is just absurd, and it just makes him look absurd. And I don't know if people still listening to Patel are idiots. And I don't understand why people like Alex Jones are saying the FBI needs to look into things. The FBI doesn't look into anything. They run it. They manage crime. They manage terrorism. They are behind it. They need to be cut off at the knees, down to almost nothing, or go away completely and start over. That's the only answer here. And again, somebody who's graduated from the FBI Academy, 1990, unlike Comey, who never graduated from the FBI Academy. But that's how pathetic this is. Or maybe the idea is just to say, hey, we're going to lie to you and we don't care what you say, because we're going to get Patel to say whatever we want. Trump is going to go along with everything. But, where is the outrage for the Epstein files? What they've disappeared. FISA stuff. The J-6ers, where's all the indictments? Nothing's happening. So they're basically telling us, frack you, we don't care, we're going to do what we want. That is the unfortunate situation there with the FBI, which is the cover team for the deep state. And at Utah Valley University, the workers aren't just ripping up and replacing where Charlie Kirk was sitting. They've been redoing the walkway behind him. They're even redoing the ceiling there. The crime scene has been completely remodeled without a peep from the FBI. This is exactly how we know, more than anything, how, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because what happened at Waco, they bulldozed the evidence into a fire afterwards. What happened at Butler? The FBI in a raid jacket, it's on the roof, washing the blood off the roof the next day. This is a blatant covert cover-up team. And this is even more complete. And it also indicates, if they're doing the ground below and the structures above, that they were somehow involved in this as well. And it looks like also that the security team that was on there was only there for that one mission. His normal security was not there. A lot of speculation, from camera guns to microphone guns to palm pistols to palm activators of microphone guns, which all again indicates Israeli assassination sophistication there as well. But supposedly Erica is saying that Charlie Kirk left detailed plans for the 2028 election. She spoke to Glenn Beck about this. And she said he didn't wing it. He planned for this. He kept diaries, budgets, and roadmaps. She says he's got stacks of diaries. So I know there's a lot of concern about her. I tend to be an ideological Boy Scout. That's why I get betrayed so much. There's a lot of warning signs about her. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Like Ann did, I don't agree with Ann on everything, like joining BRICS. I don't know where that came from. Not blaming Israel because the government, Netanyahu, Bibi, there are Israelis who are against the Zionist state of Israel. There's rabbis against that. That's true. But we will see what happens with that. If she shows the diaries, that would prove everything. If she continues to talk about the diaries, then I have concerns. They're already putting this kid, this Brylan somebody remind me of his name here. Oh, they demolished, Tonox, they demolished the elementary school, Uvalde. There you go. Again, that's how we know it is a setup for sure. Thank you, Heather. Glad you like that point there as well. Hey, go to teamamericacoffee.com. Get your Team America coffee as well. Stay Brewed is a supporter of the show. Stay Brewed. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Earl Jackson. Brylan Hollyhand is the new kid American Christian Zionist that they're trying to replace Charlie with. That won't work. Charlie is somebody who's irreplaceable, but they're going to try. That's not the same Zionist kid that wanted to be on my show, by the way. I looked it up. But I did find it interesting that she said this was a letter that went out. It was in my junk mail. I took it out. That he wore a red bracelet on his wrist that read, "Work harder, be better." And he wore that until somebody asked him about it, and he gave it away. So in my near-death experience, it changed everything, and why I founded the Christ Connection Chaplaincy at christchaplains.com. If you don't know about my near-death experience, I've talked about it. I usually talk about it in sermons, which you can get all of them at christchaplaincy.com for free. But basically, I was coming out of a sweat lodge and I died. The guys say I died. There was a ray of light coming out of my mouth. I was back at an angle that I should not have been able to hold. And then when I came back, I saw this connection of light, like a white dove coming down, and I saw this voice. I didn't hear it, didn't see it. It was all around. It was clearly God, no doubt. And it was very clear. It was, "I love you." And that was an all-encompassing feeling of warmth and love. I've since learned the Hebrew word for that is hesed, which is like beyond even a mother's love for a baby. And then this is right, and then work harder, which surprised me because I was already working so hard, and then have faith. And at that time, faith was not really in my vocabulary. And I now define faith as a wisdom of things unseen, as is different than belief. Belief is not faith. They are not the same. But anyway, that really caught me because Charlie had the same messages: work harder. And we are both very hardworking folks. So that was fascinating to me. Holly Tree, the ones they make magic wands with. Yeah, that name looked weird to me too, Earl Jackson. Thanks for that. That is real interesting. By the way, jeffreyprather.com/Jace, there's some great prescription medicines specials available right now if you're interested in that as well. And of course, Erica was wearing that Knights of Malta necklace, and I've published again on Patreon at the $15 level a deep dive on the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. There's a lot of military and intelligence folks in that. OSS, Wild Bill Donovan was in it. Lots of CIA guys were in that as well. So, and her mother looks like she was in intelligence. Now that doesn't, indict her. If you look at me, my background, come out of special operations, come out of the intelligence community, trained by Jesuits, came out of Catholic Church, all of that. That is the way I came from, and I think I turned out pretty good. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt anyway. I'm going to cue my guest here, who is not on yet, as well. But I'll go on to talk about having defeated the U.S., China is now waging unrestricted war in Mexico. So remember, there was a Professor Ping who said they defeated the United States in 2020. And I agree with that assessment because during the first Gulf War, two Chinese Air Force colonels watched us win that war so fast. We had to, because we knew the press would turn against us. And they said, nobody can take the U.S. head on, so we're not going to. And they developed the unrestricted warfare doctrine, which is everything except kinetically, everything except militarily, which is infiltrate the universities, infiltrate the scientific institutions, infiltrate the economy. And they have done that. They have successfully waged that war. Trump was the first person to do anything to counter that with the tariff wars. And so I give him a lot of credit for that. And I think that has gone pretty well. But it has gone so successfully well. We are so controlled. Our economy is so owned by China that China is now using that same doctrine on Mexico. Mexico City's historic center, UNESCO World Heritage Jewel, is undergoing a radical transformation. In just 4 years, temporary and permanent residencies granted to Chinese citizens have skyrocketed by 245%. From 2,674 in 2020 to 9,224 in 2024. And this is a Chinese invasion into the heart of Mexico City. And I've spent a lot of time there in Mexico City, worked it many times. So this has become the epicenter for this wave where Mexican merchants denounce displacement, oversupply of made in China products. That's exactly what unrestricted warfare is, take over the economy. The migratory wave driven by bilateral trade ties is concentrated in the capital's epicenter. Over 3,500 Chinese businesses, accounting for 20% of all commerce, are displacing Mexico. Producers and vendors through dumping practices, selling below production costs, flooding the market with cheap made in China trash. Between 2023 and 2024, detentions of Chinese nationals in irregular status reached 29,818, a dramatic leap from the 1,312 reported from 2019 to 2022. Mexico City absorbed 75% of Chinese investment, equivalent to 1.74 billion in 2024, coinciding with the residency boom. So this is huge. In 2023, over 5,000 Chinese obtained temporary residencies, 157% increase. And many Chinese see this as a stepping stone to the United States, but I think it is more of a connecting the dots from the United States through Mexico, through Guatemala, from Honduras, Panama, Bolivia, down to Venezuela. This is part of formalizing the new Silk Road, I believe, as well. Hey, also remember heavensharvest.com, code JP15, heavensharvest.com, code JP15 for a 15% discount on your non-GMO seeds. Great stuff there as well. This massive arrival of Chinese products affects and erodes Mexico. And so that's destroying the Mexican identity as well. And of course, we've already been infiltrated heavily by Mexico as well. This is an assault on Mexico's culture and labor sovereignty. While Beijing subsidizes its industrial surplus, as exporting 20,000 tons of commerce daily, progressive Mexican governments prioritize blind globalization over protecting artisans and small businesses. And of course, the other part of it is that Mexico is controlled by the drug cartels. So we're seeing the continued globalization and regionalization where there are no nation states with borders that define themselves by their national ethics, which are based upon national morals. And the Chinese are working on that hard. And of course, there's a lot of alliances with the Chinese and the Sinaloa drug cartels as well for all of that. So that is very important and significant to understand as well. And going back to the backlash or reaction to Charlie Kirk's obvious assassination, which is very sophisticated and by a very sophisticated team, and all roads lead to Israel, to Netanyahu, to Mossad. We saw where Sinclair Broadcasting Network removed Jimmy Kimmel for false remarks about MAGA being the assassin. And then they were going to air a special tribute, but they never did. After late night host Jimmy Kimmel told a blatant and malicious lie on September 15th that Kirk Shooter was a MAGA supporter, Sinclair said they would not air his show as the corporation owns more than 40 affiliates of ABC. They told that instead they would be doing instead of Kimmel's timeline, they would do a tribute to Kirk. But the decision was reversed on September 19th, and the New York Post reported the decision came down to local threats directed at specific local ABC stations, resulting from Kimmel's suspension. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing what I say is the global cabal. Now, the deep state or double government are government officials like FBI and CIA, the intelligence community, who are running their own agendas as opposed to serving America, managing terrorism, managing crime, as we've seen over and over. And that's the deep state double government. The global cabal would be the World Economic Forum. It would be Israel. It'd be the United Nations. Anyone who is not inside the United States government. I mention this because I try to be very specific about my terms of what's going on here. And so here we're seeing the deep state's deep reach inside the media. The media reacted morally, and they were extorted or captured or threatened by multiple threats at local levels. So you're going to see the FBI investigate these threats, come up with, say, hey, here, we found who threatened the studios or anything. No, you're not going to see any of that ever. What you saw was Patel in Oregon. There were 4 illegals who pointed lasers at a helicopter, and Patel is bragging about how they tracked down the 4 illegals, and that if you're going after law enforcement, we will come and get you. So this giant $11 billion FBI budget with drones and aerial surveillance and cyber and FISA and paying informants millions of dollars. They can actually follow bad guys back. So let me tell you, I've done a lot of helicopter surveillance. So DPS has that. Sheriff's offices have that, police. And so you got the laser, you see where the laser is coming from. You see the guy leaving, you just keep your eye on him. You follow him back, or with recognition today software, you can do that even better. Now, in my day, we didn't even have swivel seats. And sometimes when I was in Gila, sometimes I was hanging out of a little helicopter. Sometimes I was in a plane. I remember I couldn't even turn my neck because back then they didn't have swivel seats. But you got to keep your eye on the white car because there's lots of white cars. But the whole point is, it ain't much for the giant FBI to find 4 guys who pointed a laser at anything. That's any competent local police or DPS, Department of Public Safety, would be able to do that. So what are they doing with all the money and the rest of it? They're using it for the next script to use against us. And it's really pathetic that's what he's saying is so important. Your descriptions of the deep state, second government versus new world order is great talking points to use. Well, good. I thought I've defined these enough, but I guess I haven't, because I was talking with my S3 who seemed to be using different ones. Real smart guy. But again, deep state, double government, institutional government employees who have turned on us, traitors who are serving their own agendas. That's the deep state. Global cabal is anybody outside the US government. For example, Israeli Mossad influences the CIA and the FBI. They infiltrate those organizations too. They are not deep state. They are global cabal influencing deep state in the way I define it. And again, of course, the last thing is the deep states of each country then make up the global cabal, which run the dark economy. The dark economy is a diplomatic immunity, diplomatic pouch that allows the global cabal to run people, primarily children now, weapons and drugs, through without going through any customs. That's what the dark economy is. So hopefully I find deep state, double government, global cabal, and dark economy, what all of those are. I hope that is making more sense to everybody now. But regardless, I wanted to get to my guest. I see he's there in the cyber waiting room now. And so I had more to get to, but we'll come back to that. But ERIK HOLT is a fireman, a fire chief, a patriot, father, husband, and he exposed election fraud and paid the price for that. Tommy Kerrigan, I have guested with Tommy quite a few times, and we share important guests. Suggested I have ERIK on. So I want to do that because I always want to show the ground up resistance movement that we need to continue to develop because nobody's coming. It's up to us. Can't sit back and eat the popcorn. That's for Q PsyOps. And again, this is a guy as a fireman, a guy that runs into buildings on fire. And of course, I've had a greater appreciation for firemen lately since our house burned down. I appreciated them before, worked with them, but this is a continuing service to his community, just beyond his job, as a fire chief as well. So without further ado, hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Wow, that's quite the mustache there. Yeah, I got some mustache wax on too, but that's really a nice one.
Yeah, get with me after. We'll trade some tips. How's that?
It does take quite a bit. I've had to learn how to do all that stuff as well. So please, for the audience, summarize your background and how you who you are and what you did and how you got where you're at today.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just start kind of telling the story and jump in and let's just chat about it. But I have found myself in the midst of something I never thought I would, and I've been fighting it, for like 2 years, 2+ years now, kind of silently. When you engage with attorneys, they sometimes they like you to be loud, sometimes they like you to be quiet. Mine chose to They wanted me to be quiet. But I'll come back to why I'm talking about it now as we go through the story. But I was a Army veteran. I started firefighting young in high school. I had the opportunity through like a career start scenario with the local volunteer fire service. I fell in love with it at 15, 16 years old. From a small town in California was where I grew up. And I kind of say this, like, my life isn't super planned out. So we were a nation at war in 2003 when I graduated high school. So naturally, I was a young man in good fighting condition. So I joined the military. I was lucky enough to be given a slot in the Army as a firefighter, which got me
Cool.
certified. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a very small MOS, but when I was in, it was, you're just kind of the guy that, first to doff your mop gear and stuff, right? Like, you're just the canary. But I
Yeah,
had an
because
amazing
jet
active duty
fuel and there's
time.
explosives and everything. So yeah, you guys are on the edge there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love telling the story, but like, so I was deployed in '05, '06 to Ramadi, Iraq, and I was a firefighter in an ammo unit. So it was like, all right, we got this mission. We need 3 volunteers, HOLT, and then 2 others, right? Because I was the non-essential. But man, that gave me some great opportunities. It gave me some great stories, of course. So I've always been somebody that's never willing to shy away from a fight. And so I got out of the military in '08. uh, Immediately just transitioned into a DoD GS position, general schedule on Fort Hood fire, as a civilian. So I started there, uh, stayed there for about 5, 6 years, and then moved up to Colorado. Just transferred to Fort Carson, where I did a bunch more time, another decade or so.
What
So
were
I
you
had
at
18.
10 or 11 or 12 or what?
What's that?
Yes, what?
I was a 7 and then promoted into a 9. So,
Okay.
good career move. We have an extended schedule, so it's greater salary than like a general regular GS employee. But made good money. Loved being around the military. Loved the camaraderie. And then in 2022, um, life changed a bit. So I'm a dad of 2 teen daughters. I'd gone through a divorce. As ugly as those can get. So I in 2022, after like 3 years being divorced, I found myself having full custody of 2 teenage daughters.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which is somewhat rare, but it's harder when you're a firefighter, working 48-hour shifts, right? So I started to open up to the idea after 18 years of leaving federal service in the DoD, uh, and the local fire chief's position had opened up. So how I got into that, there was some
Let
turmoil in
me,
this.
let me ask you something. So, because I'm divorced with 2 kids from my first marriage too, and for you to get total custody, it really says something about you because it's really slanted towards uh, the mom. And then you had 18 years federal service. Did you buy back your military time as well? So did you get your 20?
No, I didn't. So this is where
Yeah.
the story diverges because I did I did resign my position at 18-year mark.
Ah,
So as this opportunity sort of came up, I got a call on a Saturday morning. I was known in my county uh, from being on an incident management team at the county level. And so there was some turmoil in this small fire district, and I didn't even know about what was going on. But one morning I get a phone call from our county emergency manager and says, "Hey, the board member from Florissant Fire is going to call you. Brief kind of explanation, but they've got some craziness happening, and they need somebody to step in as an interim chief. And I thought of you, so I recommended you. I just want to give you a heads up." So a few minutes later, I get that phone call, and the chief that had been there, he'd been hired like, I don't know, less than a year, had gotten himself into some sticky stuff with the board. So a lot of the board had resigned. He was put on, like paid leave, pending investigation, all this stuff. And so they brought me in just to kind of stabilize things and evaluate what was going on. And I was pretty alarmed at what it was. It's a district that covered 65 square miles and about 5,500 residents. So not an insignificant department by any means. But the condition of it was very poor. There was like four volunteer responders, nobody like certified or qualified to actually be doing, or if it was one person it was qualified in this thing and the other. So my assessment was pretty harsh on it, coming from a very professional background, and that he asked me to do it for 2 weeks. In 2 weeks it turned into 5 months, and during that 5 month period is when the court stuff happened and I got full custody of my girls. So I literally sat down with my kids, um, and said, look, like I'm gonna commit to this, and I'm going to put in for the position on a permanent basis, which would allow me to be at home every night, albeit still responding, right, as the fire
Right,
chief.
right.
But I quit my DoD service at 18 years with no guarantees. I just sort of bet on myself, right? And I was in
You
a
didn't
good
buy back.
position.
You didn't buy back your military time.
No, I did since that move. I did qualify for a partial retirement. So like,
Okay,
but this came
you got your
after.
20 then.
Yeah, it came 2 years after making this decision, right? So I kind of just threw caution to the wind and put in. I was hired for the permanent chief, and then you know OPM. It takes some time, so I started that
Yeah.
process after I had resigned, which took 2 years. So uh, luckily, I wasn't needing that paycheck in the moment, right? Uh, but yeah, so September of 2022, I find myself with this new avenue and this new opportunity. It fits what has changed in my personal life. Um, and that board that had initially hired me had been reconstituted. So, like the county commissioners had to have this special process because there was a defunct board. Basically, there was no board. And so they appointed three people who then appointed two others, once they reestablished the quorum. And that had happened like July, August. And then their number one priority obviously was to hire a permanent chief, to which I was fortunate enough to be selected. Um, and so I literally just got to work. I mean, like I said, I was critical of the condition of the department when I came in, and I approached my board first thing, like the first week. I said, here's my vision for it. As every leader should do, you apply your vision and have faith and stance in that. Where we just rebranded the department in a professional manner. So that came with a new logo. I paid out of my own pocket to put this huge mural up that was just this huge American flag, with firefighters from 9/11 images, and this new logo. And I've always said, if you create an organization that people want to be a part of or they see as something good, then you don't have to recruit real hard. People will
Right.
gravitate there,
You're right.
especially in small town America.
Yeah.
And we couldn't have had better success. I mean, we went from, like I said, 4 or 5, kind of, I won't call them unqualified because it sounds rude, right? But they lacked experience, to 9 months later, when the fork in the road happens, we had 62 firefighters on the
Wow.
books.
How many EMT qualified?
12, and at the time that things changed, there was 3 in school that have all gone on, and 1 became a paramedic. So we would have been at 15 within
Wow.
9 months. And an average call volume of roughly 600 calls per year. So to have 15 EMTs on staff was great. And we went from a respond from home volunteer model to staffing 24/7 within the budget without changing any budget,
For
for the
people
time.
who don't know, fire departments answer, health recalls more than anything anyway. So Warrior School, my company, we had a GI Bill program where vets getting out could use their GI Bill to go get EMT qualified. We'd certify them, and then of course they could get a good fire department job.
Yeah, I mean it's hugely important. And yes, anywhere between 80 to 90% of fire department calls are EMS based. Anything obviously from a stub toe at 2 a.m. to a heart attack at noon, right? Like, and everything in between. So it was highly important for me to establish that professional culture. And my base metric that I focused on every single day was our response times. So a response time, or an aggregate response time, we call it, is from the time somebody calls 911 and tells the dispatcher their emergency until the time the first responder arrives to their home, that time span. And when I took over, it was something like 18, 19 minutes on average. And if you think about that, and in context of what emergency services is, try to hold your breath for 18 minutes. If you can't breathe, that's a very long time. That is literally life and death, right? A professional fire department standard is 7 minutes, and that was my goal. And like I said, in September 2022 is when I was made the permanent fire chief. In January of 2023, we hit that goal of a 7-minute response time.
Wow,
So
that's
it was
cool.
something I was extremely proud of.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
really aware of that because we had a house fire in March, so response times are crucial. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it literally again is people's lives, right? And so
Yep.
as first responders, we owe it to the taxpayers to meet those metrics, right? They may just sound like data to some people, but when you dial 911, it truly means something. So at that time, like I just got to like January 2023, the momentum for the upcoming elections started happening where candidates had declared they were running. So we had an opposing force of people and the board that was current that had hired me. And I have to be very like open about this because of what it gets into. But my job as the fire chief was not to be, uh, have allegiance to any individual that served on the board of directors. My job was to ensure that we put the most professional standard forward and delivered, high quality emergency care. And so uh, it was very contentious. This this group had come forward as a slate of 5 people. There was 5 board director positions up for election, and they ran as a slate of 5. So literally, they had like the motto, like vote for one, vote for all, and they were trying to oust the sitting board. So as politics in our country does, it got to become like this distraction thing going on. But super proud of my firefighters and in our department. Our guys were focused on guys and gals were focused on getting better, and we did that every single day. Um, so that went on from January until May, and in May 2nd, 2023, the elections were held for the district's board of directors seat. And sometimes in these interviews, I kind of lose people here because it's like a local election. They don't get as much turnout. They aren't covered by the news by any means. But why I want to share this story is like how much it does change and what the big ramifications are nationally, for all of us. So uh, on that day, because of all the contentiousness that was going on, the incumbent board had hired a law firm to run the election. And they did all of that. It was held at the fire station, and because it was contentious, I worked from home that day, and so we would respond to calls, and then I wouldn't go back to like the normal office on that day. Um, so they're doing their thing. They're doing the election at the fire station. I do have to respond. We had a couple calls in the morning. You go to somebody's home, ambulance transports. I went back to my home to work from home. But on one of the calls was, unfortunately, a gentleman had started just like I think it was difficulty breathing or something like that, or chest pain, but he ended up having a heart attack. And in those things, in rural fire districts, you generally have you call for a medevac helicopter, and so that landing spot was at the fire station where that election was being held. And so we transported the gentleman from his home to that landing zone, and en route, he had had a cardiac arrest call. So we did everything we could, and unfortunately, that gentleman did not make it. And the next thing after that is now, as the fire chief, I have got to go back to that gentleman's home and tell his family like we did everything we could, but we couldn't save your loved one. And so that brought me to the station that day. When I had returned from talking with the family and consoling them, like I'm sure everybody can imagine, it's not a fun situation. It's emotional to get through. I come back to the station, get my chief's vehicle, our little SUV that had been left there, and in that sort of transition, a local resident had come up to me and said, "Hey, I just overheard a poll watcher walk outside, and I snapped a picture, but here's what I heard." And before I tell you that part, um, if you've ever been to a polling location, there's a no electioneering zone that's usually
Mhm.
100, 150 feet out from, where that election is held. And so the picture was this poll watcher standing within that election zone on the phone. And, the resident had shown it to me and said, "Well, what I overheard was, did you pay them? Is it this vehicle that's pulling in? And, I want to report that." And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds to be concerning. Let me take you to the designated election official and you can lodge that complaint," right? And so for that day, I just sort of went about responding to calls and, doing fire chief duties as normal. Um, and then at the end of the day, I had to show up to secure the building again, right? So I got the key card back from this law firm that ran the election, and I was just kind of talking to her. So she told me the results, which was that slate of five that had opposed the incumbents had won all five seats, which was shocking, right? Because the people that were incumbents had a pretty good record to run for political office. Like we had built this department up, they had hired me and all this stuff. So they had the momentum. So it was shocking. And then there was immediately an anomaly that the voter turnout was 3 times what we had ever seen in historical voting records. So that caused me to, kind of peer up at the sky and going, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. But the DEO, the designated election official, had expressed like, what a crazy day. This was chaotic. This was, like, I'm so glad it's over. And we had briefly kind of exchanged like the concerns from citizen complaints, right? And so in the next couple days, when I tell this story, it was like from that moment that the picture was shown to me and I heard what I had heard as the complaint. There's like this pit in my stomach, and you know there's all this concern by the firefighters that I'm responsible to lead, and there's just a lot of fear. I think change equals fear in some regards, but like it was just a little bit more out of the norm. And then I had heard another complaint in like the grocery store or something. Somebody had come up to me and said, "Oh, so I was being recorded when I went to the polling location." I'm like, "Recorded by who?" And they're like, "Oh, the poll watchers were literally like recording me and making rude remarks and this and that." And I was like, man, okay. So I reached back out to the designated election official. and the attorney who represents our district. And I told them that, and they're like, yeah, we've gotten a few more complaints. There's a pretty high level of concern here, And I said, all right, well, you guys communicate with the incumbent board, because now we're in that, what everybody knows, like a lame duck period. So between
Mhm.
the elections and taking office, you've got this period of time. And so for us, I think that was almost a month's time. And so about a week after the elections, um, I just am grappling with this internal sort of struggle about what happened and whether there's something was wrong. And I got to be clear, and I tell everybody this, like I knew what my best personal option was to not look into this, right? Because these people have been elected to be my bosses. And so my personal interest uh, says, stay away from this, man. Do your job. But my citizen duty inside of me, and that knot in my stomach coming up was, man, everything I believe in this country is founded in this one principle of civic duty and election integrity. And I can take whatever it is if it's real, but if it isn't, I have a problem.
You just couldn't take the easy way out, could you? You
I
just
couldn't.
couldn't take.
I couldn't. Believe me, I tried to convince myself to, because again, I'm a single dad with two girls, right? And I gotta look them in the face every single day. And I know looking into anything or getting involved is not in my personal interest. But literally, I like cooked them dinner, put them to bed, and I was like sitting in my room and just like, all right, Eric. I mean, that internal conversation. I'm like, I can't let it go. This has been eating me up for a week. I'm gonna look into it. But Eric, are you ready for, if you find something, the next chapter? Because I knew 100% that if I found something, I couldn't turn a blind eye to it and walk away. And
You gotta
guess
pay
what,
for every
guys?
good deed.
Yeah. Guess what? I'm on this podcast, right? So obviously, I found something. So, do you have any questions before I kind of jump into that next segment?
No, no, go ahead.
All right. All right. So, I make the decision internally, and I just say I'm going forward. So I contact this third party company the next day. Well, let me take it back. I didn't contact them. I go to Walmart. I buy thumb drives. I show up to this company that has our contract for the security system. They own all the servers. They do all the IT work, all this stuff that had been installed in the station. And I said, hey, like, I'm off duty. Here's a thumb drive. I'll pay for this personally, but I need all the cameras associated with the May 2nd, 2023 election from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's when the election ran. Um, please let me know how much and when I can come get it. And if memory serves me right, it was it was a day later. They called me and they're like, hey, it's X amount of dollars, and come pick it up. So I go in, I get the thumb drive back, and I head home. And that's a very different mindset. All of a sudden you're like, I got this thing. Um, so again, I make dinner for my girls, spend the evening with them, get them to bed. And I remember sitting like, all right, kind of pumping yourself up, like plug this thing into the computer. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know anything about election laws. I'm a fire chief. Like, I'm good at this one section of life. So I don't even know what I'm looking for. So I print out the Colorado laws regarding elections and I read them, right? And in one of the attachments or whatever to the law is a list of rules for poll watchers. So I go, oh yeah, somebody complained about the poll watchers. Let me set that here. And it's like four cameras on a 12-hour day. So we're looking at 48 hours of footage. And I don't even know a starting point, right? So I just start watching. Um, and so I do this for the next 2 or 3 days. I just, I
Wow.
obviously go to work, but I watched every minute of those 48 hours and took notes on everything I had, comparing them. So what I did is literally like tally marks. So I could read rule 1, no electronic devices in the polling location. So every time I watched and I saw it, I'd put a tally mark. And by the time I was done with that, like if I held it up, there's hundreds of tally marks. And I'm like, okay, so very simple me, who is not an attorney or law enforcement officer, can say, this is the law, and this is the amount of times that it happened. That's breaking the law. And so I'll go, okay, so there's something here. I've confirmed it. But what did all those tallies mean? And so I went back through and I started watching it, and
Wow.
I started queuing into things again. And so at this one moment, so there was in the very first like hour, there's a lady, she flips open her laptop and you can see her recording the room. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. So now somebody was saying that they were being recorded. I can confirm that. And now I can confirm that's also a violation of the law, i.e., that's breaking the law. Um, but I didn't think that was enough. So I said, I got to figure out what the scheme is. And so I started to break that down piece by piece. And so one thing that I caught that was alarming to me was that voters would come in and the camera was in a great location. So it was in the corner of the room, farthest from the front door, and the poll watcher sat directly under it. And out from the camera was the polling booth. So like the screens are to you, right? You can't see what anybody's doing, but you can see the layout of the room. And the closest people to the camera is those poll watchers. So it was a great vantage point. But what was alarming is voters would come in, they would get their ballot, and they would kind of walk past this poll watchers table. And when they would get done with their votes, they were checking in, quote unquote, right? So they would nod, they would give a thumbs up. Um, and when I saw that dozens of times. I'm like, are voters checking in with these people? That would be weird. And then I noticed that they were doing an action with their hands, the poll watchers. And so I had to slow motion some stuff, but I finally caught it, like this clear image. And every time they would get a confirmation from a voter, they would do this action with their hand, and I couldn't piece it together until I caught this frame, and it was a track counter. So those little circular track counters that have a button on them. So they would get a confirmation and they would click it. And then each poll watcher had one. So then they would compare their numbers and confirm them. And I
Dang, you're
go,
an investigator, man.
yeah, I mean, this is my one time to shine in life. I'm a fire chief. So uh I got it. I was like, okay, so they're counting the votes. So what's the other half? That doesn't guarantee you an election. Can I find some other stuff? And so yeah, I mean, it was super clear. Voters would walk in, they would cast their ballot, or they'd fill out the ballot, and as they were going to stuff it into the box, they were checking in with these poll watchers, and then the poll watchers were tabulating. And I go, that's pretty egregious, but that doesn't guarantee you victory. So I keep watching and I keep watching. And so the next kind of point in uncovering this scheme was, okay, I remember the time that I was there. Because I can look at my call log, right? So I know what time I cleared the call from that cardiac arrest, and I can match up time. So I do that, and I go to the outside camera, which has audio, and I find that time frame, and out comes a poll watcher from the polling location on the cell phone, and the conversation that got described to me, I can hear from the camera, and it
Wow.
was the one part that the wind cut off was the pay part, but you can hear her asking, and then she's confirming a vehicle description. And so it was enough to go, okay, this is that moment. And then people get out of their cars and she greets them, and you can hear her tell them names of candidates. And I go, okay, so now, I'm not law enforcement, but I can corroborate the complaint with what I'm seeing. So there's somebody offsite incentivizing people and coordinating. Part two of the scheme. And I go, okay, so we've got that. Somebody's incentivizing, poll watchers are receiving, voters are casting the ballot and checking in to confirm, and they're counting. Again, does that guarantee you a victory? Well, it wouldn't if the other party, if the other side had more voters. right? You're not tabulating those and keeping track of them. So you would have to know the counts, the total counts throughout the day to know how many people to incentivize and how many you can kind of cut off and know. And it all came together, man. So another camera happened to be where they were counting ballots. So election judges would go in a team of two with two poll watchers, and they would literally count ballots. They'd read them out, tally them up. And in that camera was the most alarming. It it all but confirmed that the election judges were in on it, because now I'm not going to get into, and I'm not going to accuse that they were incentivized or anything like that, but they were content with what was happening. I will say that very clearly. If you go to my social pages, Justice for Holt on X, Facebook, TikTok, these videos are up there. But one of the poll watchers, as they're reading out these ballots, and again, there's audio, um, would click, and he's sitting right here in front of the election judges who's reading, and he's clicking, and the other guy is sitting there on his phone, texting out the numbers. And so I go, oh man, so now they know. And one of the sound bites from the election judges, who's an election official, was this soundbite of like, well, there's two of them. One is, oh, this election is fixed, ha ha ha, as the guy is clicking the vote totals, and the other guy's on his phones. Both are violations of law. And then a later clip was her saying, the designated election official said this would be contentious. And my response was, who's going to enforce the election laws? Not me, not me being the election judge that's hired to ensure that. While this scheme is playing out right in front of their eyes and they do nothing to stop it. And so that whole scheme came together, that not only were they incentivizing people to show up, the complaint said paid, but I'm not privy to what that incentive was. They would come in, they'd check, they'd tabulate the votes. Then, because they're poll watchers, they get exclusive access to hear the ballots actually being counted. They tabulate in that room and communicate it out to the other poll watchers and whoever's coordinating this election. And so at that point, I knew I had uncovered the whole scheme. And then the last bit was literally outside of that front door camera facing the parking lot, very late in the day. Three poll watchers and one of the candidates meet, and they describe the whole scheme, literally what the count was by numbers. I think the lady said something like, if we're under 800 votes, we've won. We don't have to worry about it anymore. And then like one of the poll watchers is literally like telling the candidate, oh yeah, the election judges haven't cared all day. I sit in there and I click every time they call our names.
This
So I
is,
have
this is a prosecutor's dream.
it. You want to talk about like a gift, right? Here's a
Yeah.
gift horse. Um, and so I literally was like, all right, I got it. I need to now get this in the hands of somebody. And so I had communicated again with the attorney, who I should communicate with. They're hired to protect the district, right? They're not my attorney, they're not the fire chief's attorney, they're not the board's attorney. They're the district, the tax entity's attorney. So I reach out to her and I go, hey, this is what I found. Again, she employed the election official, right? So they have a stake in this too. And so I tell her exactly what I found, just like I did to you. And she's like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" And so she and the outgoing board president communicate. Outside of me, I have no idea what they talk about. I talk to the attorney, and the attorney had contacted the district attorney's office. And so, sort of independently, I had called the district attorney's office and I said, "Hey, um, I don't know who I'm supposed to call, but can I talk to the DA?" And they're like, no, dude. This is a city of like 500,000 people, so it's a big DA's office. You don't get to the number one guy very easily. But I was naive, and I'm like, well, let me describe what I have and why I need to talk to him. Blah blah. And they're like, okay, well, somebody will call you back. So they call me back, an investigator. I meet with the investigator. I sit and watch footage with him. Obviously, not 48 hours. I think we sat for an hour or two, and I played some of the most egregious stuff. And he was like, I described cops. Firemen and cops have, you know, a fun sort of rapport. We were a cop and a fireman, you know, shooting the breeze, having fun until I
Was
started
he
showing him this.
a city cop or a detective, or is he a district attorney investigator? Who's he actually work for?
He is a DA investigator, but also a post certified, you know, law enforcement officer.
He's a sworn peace officer.
Yes.
Okay.
So I always describe cops. Cops are fun until they're work mode, and then they're very rigid. So this guy went from, like, you know, laughing and joking to me playing a clip for him and him getting very rigid and not talking anymore. And when we left that meeting, he goes, "Man, it is super clear that this is election fraud, and I got this," you know. And he had explained to me he wasn't the guy that did election investigations; another guy did. But he was on vacation. When he got back, he would take over. They would work it together. So I was like, "All right, cool. You know, I did my civic duty. Let me get back to work." But life is not that easy. So um, the outgoing board president was kept in the loop by the attorney and by me of what was uncovered. She filed a court injunction to stay the election results until this investigation happened. And in that transition period of time, you know, these people are now aware of it and they're chomping at the bit to get seated and start making their decisions. And so, by law, that happens at the next regular board meeting or 45 days after they certify the election. And so the outgoing board president rescheduled that meeting, delaying it. And the incoming board said, "Nope, we're seizing power. We're in office." And so this, like, never, there was never a transition. But all of a sudden, I've got these people that I'm now cooperating with law enforcement against, claiming that they're in power. They are the board of directors, i.e., my bosses is the fire chief. Hey Jeff, let me just check on time here. How we looking?
We're going a bit long, but go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, just to kind of get through this quick, you know, like I'm now trying to be a fire chief. These people come in May 25th and declare themselves the board of directors for the fire department under criminal investigation with pending court stuff. Their first action is to send me an email, a list of orders, and the number one order on that was to provide them the location, username, and passwords of the security system. Now, Jeff, let me ask you just a quick question. If you were raised your hand and took an oath to serve on the fire department board of directors, what would your top priority be? Probably not the security system, I'd say.
No, it would be to check on the viability and competence of the fire department.
Yeah, I would think the operation side of it would be the most important thing, but not these folks. And so that was a huge indicator to me. They knew something was there, and it was kind of confirming to me. Like, all that work I had done confirms that they were a
You've
part
already
of
got a
this.
copy of. You've got a copy of everything.
I do, and until recently, they didn't know that. I sat quiet on that, but I had turned it over to law enforcement, man. And
Oh, you
so,
had. You had.
yeah, yeah, I'd given it to law enforcement. So,
Okay, so they should have put that in evidence.
and it was, and I'm going to get to this because this is a new thing that just happened. But so they ordered me to get rid of this thing and give them access to this footage. I talked to the investigator. He's like, "Don't do that, man. Please." You know, obviously there's a criminal investigation going on. Um, and then their second action was to freeze the bank accounts of the fire department, and they were not. The board president, Paul Del Toro, um, went to the bank, said, "I'm the board president, freeze the bank accounts." And the bank was like, "Okay, Mr. Board President, sure." Until, like, a couple days later, and they were like, "Wait a minute, you're not on the bank account. That's illegal." But he doesn't tell us that. So the bank's legal department put a hard freeze on all the accounts, all the assets of the fire department.
And he's not on the account?
He was never on the account because the transition of power never happened, right? Because of all
So how did
this.
that happen? How did they touch that guy?
Well,
It's a small town.
yeah. So the news comes calling. So he doesn't tell me this as the fire chief, that the bank account has now said this was an illegal arrangement and that they have frozen the account. So like Monday, June 5th, like a week after they come into being the board, or declaring themselves the board, I start getting phone calls. The first one I think was like our utilities, and the second was our fuel for the fire trucks. They both called and said, "Hey, you're not getting your delivery. You don't have your service because we're not getting paid." And I went, "Wait, what?" So I call him, and he's like, "Oh, that can't be right." Well, he knew that this had happened, but he's trying to squirm his way out, right? He committed bank fraud, plain and simple. So he's working his way through this, and the contentiousness of things are going crazy. So also on June 5th, 2023, one of the board directors, named Alan Schultz, files a pro se response to that court injunction, and he sends it to me, and I respond back, "Hey man, I'm the fire chief. I'm not a party to this court thing. Like, you shouldn't send this." And he responds back, "Oh, you better read it. I'm asking that you be charged for felonies for accessing the election footage." And I'm like, I just kind of laugh it off. I'm like, whatever, man. Like, this guy's crazy, anyways. But I have a clause in my contract that says that the district will indemnify me, uh, you know, from liability if I'm doing my job. And so I now have one of my bosses on the board of directors threatening me because I'm cooperating with the law enforcement investigation into their criminal activity. Talk about getting weird, but I invoke that clause, they ignore it. And the next day, insurance, our liability insurance for the district, called and said, "We haven't been paid." Yet another bill that went unpaid. And so literally the board is scrambling to get this thing paid. It's a $23,000 bill. My authorization was $5,000 for any emergency bills. Anything above that, I could not do. Did not have the authority to do that. So we're talking about a $23,000 bill. He pays it from his personal account, which sounds noble, but this is the only way for him to get out of this situation. And then an hour and like 15 minutes later, calls me and says, "Shut the fire district down." Now, why he would wait an hour and 15 minutes after paying the bill and then shut the district down, which ended up being for 5 hours, we couldn't respond to calls. All the news came calling. Local fire department shuts down operations, blah, 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 blah. And then calls me at 8 p.m.
Well, who called him, or do you not want to say who called the news? Somebody.
Well, so when as the fire chief, I had to post like on our
Oh,
website, on our social media, "Hey, we can't respond to calls. Our mutual aid neighboring fire districts will respond." And then I also took my own liability and said, "I'll respond to any calls." Um, but yeah, so that happens. Everything blows up, man. And so from the day I met with the investigator, May 19th, um, 33 days from that point, I was fired. And I was fired because that insurance bill didn't get paid. They didn't say because I'm cooperating with law enforcement.
what?
Um,
So the cause was not paying the bill.
right, a bill that I didn't have authorization because it was above my $5,000 by policy and bylaws authorization, but also that the board had illegally frozen the bank account. So even if I had that authorization, I couldn't have done it. And oh, by the way, I didn't have any access as the fire chief into the financial system, which was QuickBooks, to even input the information for that. So in no way, shape, or form could I have affected that bill being paid.
So this is
In
when you go get an attorney.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a pivotal moment in life. I have to go home June 22nd, 2023, and face my two daughters and say, I made a decision to investigate this. I did the right moral thing, but now as your dad, I don't have a job, and I don't have a way to pay for this house or clothes or food or anything. But I promise you, as your dad, that we'll figure it out, and everything will be okay. My girls are absolute rock stars. They just looked at me and they said, "We believe you, Dad, and everything will be all right." Um, and that's hard to not be emotional in reliving that memory. But you want to talk about a powerful moment for a dad, man, who's just lost everything. So
Oh, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it was hard. But yeah, I got an attorney and I filed a lawsuit. About a month later, suddenly I get a phone call from the DA investigator's office, or the DA's office, and the investigator. And he says, "We closed the investigation as a no file." And I go, "What's a no file?" And he said, "We're not filing any charges." And I remember just being like, I've already lost everything, but I'm like, you ever have that moment where you feel like you're above yourself and it's zooming out? I just was like in such a
Yep, I've been there.
dismay. Yeah, because I just in that moment I lost all faith in our system here. And I try to ask a bunch of questions. They're like, "Look, man, we're not doing anything with it. Bye," And for 2 years I couldn't figure out why, man.
I've been.
Um,
I know exactly how you feel. I've been there. I've been there.
well, I'm glad somebody's
It went
can
higher than you thought. You just didn't
yeah.
think it went as high as it did.
Yeah, and I had this naive perception of like our system, right?
Yep.
That corruption didn't control the game. And
Yep.
so fast forward, I have a federal lawsuit. Judge Nina Wang in the federal court of Colorado is my judge. Um, Grants summary judgment dismissing my case for First Amendment protected speech on the grounds that as the fire chief, everything that all those actions that I took to investigate this were the duties of a fire chief. They were not citizen duties. And I couldn't disagree more, right? My job was to respond to emergency calls, train firefighters, provide leadership to a fire department, not be a criminal investigator into election fraud.
Well, that's
But
real easy. So are you a criminal investigator? No. Do you have criminal investigator training? No. I mean, that's really easy
yeah,
for
you would think it would be, but
us.
on this ruling, she throws my case out. So I lost everything. The DA's office left me falling on my face, and then the federal judge dismisses it and says, and just for your listeners, if you speak as a citizen, you're protected under the First Amendment. If you speak under cooperation as an official duty, you are not protected under the First Amendment.
So with a federal judge dismissing I mean, because the way I'm a criminal investigator and I'm also a whistleblower, so I can follow this very clearly. And this is a prosecutor's dream case that you've given him. But the fact that a federal judge dismisses it tells you what they
Um,
are in on it.
yeah, I don't want to believe that about our court system, but it's
Well,
been
they
hard.
are in on it.
Yeah,
Why else would they dismiss it?
yeah. This judge, if you look up Nina Wang, makes some very peculiar decisions. Up until the point of losing my case, I didn't. I was invested in my kids, which I still am, of course. But like, I had attorneys, so I wasn't paying attention to what national politics that interacted with my case and what a judge histories on rulings and all that would mean. But man, I got to a point where I was defeated. I just was absolutely decimated. So I paid 100. I sold my home in Colorado, moved halfway
Oh,
across the country with my kids, relocated them so I could find a job near family, and paid an attorney like $150,000, man. And I'm out all of that. I've lost everything, and then I lost my home. I've moved across the country. Like it at that point, I was like, man, everything's just so stacked against me. There's no victory here. Um, my attorney calls and he says, "Oh, I don't agree with what the judge ruled. Do you want to appeal it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for calling me." And then the crushing thing, he's like, "Okay, give me $50,000 up front and I'll do it." And I'm like, "Bro, I have nothing. You've taken every penny that I have." Um, and now they're threatening me. I still owe 'em, like, after paying all that, I owe 'em, like, 40 grand, and now they're threatening to sue me for that, which I just don't have, right? Like, I keep saying, like, "Sue me. There's nothing you can't squeeze a sponge that's dry." So, it is what it is, but,
your
um,
your attorney's threatening to sue you.
yeah, yeah, and it just sucks, man,
I
and
think
so
my attorney was. I actually look back and think my attorney against the DEA was in on it with the DEA.
I again, I don't wanna accuse nobody of anything, but, like, You just need somebody along the chain of events to be a high moral character person, and the whole story changes, right? And I couldn't find that anywhere. And so I'm literally like at the lowest point. This is just a few months ago. My attorney never wanted me to talk about it, never wanted me to share evidence, never do anything. And after I get off that phone call, I'm just like the lowest point I've ever been. Um, and I just said, all right, I give up. Like I'm just gonna go about life. I'm gonna, find a new career path. I'm gonna just do what I have to do to survive. And I just for a couple days I just sat in that, man. And I'll tell you, listeners, build an army around you, right? And I'm gonna tie this to a point at the end, so don't let me forget. But like, build an army around you because those people are your strength when you're weak. And so when I was talking to friends, I just said I quit. I'm done. I can't win. I can't find anybody that'll do the right thing throughout this whole thing. Uh, and they were like, "You can't do that, man. You can't do that." And so literally, man, I'm sitting at dinner. My girls are talking, right? They're teen girls. They just yeah, they're having a jolly time, and I'm dealing with this like deep despair, but I'm in their presence, right? So I'm happy, and I'm a dad, but like I can't get past this, and I'm just looking at them, and like that thing where like there's no sound, but they're talking, and I'm just like watching my girls, and I go, you know what? There's not a chance in hell these two girls sitting here are gonna watch me give up in life when I believe in something, and like that right? Like a fatherly instinct just came roaring back, and I was like, you know what, man? I control my destiny, and I decide what victory versus defeat is. And I just said, screw it. And so I like started this journey. I started reading case law. I started learning the court system, and I filed an appeal. And I've done all of my briefings. And in that decision, I said, whether I win or lose, people are going to know about what happened because as a patriot and as a citizen, like if I just stay quiet and nobody ever knows about it, then it can continue to happen. And so I said, F it. And I started my Justice for Hope pages. Um, and I started showing videos and I started recording, telling this story and showing actual footage and actual emails and documents and everything. And what a gift that's been. I'm here, I now have a legal firm, a legal fund that has taken me on recently, that is now controlling everything in the appellate court, and they commend everything I did. They think we're going to get a win. I still have cleanup. I'm still dealing with the threat of my attorney suing me for what I owe him after not getting anything out of $150,000. But one fight at a time. But in that process, man, you ever have a moment in your life? This happened to me when I'm sleeping, but like two dots of information click in your brain and you just like smack to reality. So I'm literally like doing my appellate briefs and I'm sleeping one night and I guess my brain's running while I'm half asleep or whatever. And I just shoot up and I go, I know why the investigation. I know. And so this is what I found. And it came to me in my sleep 2 years after all this happened. But the DA investigator is named Andrew Vaughn, and it has a unique spelling, Vaughan. Okay, so not the it's a little different than a normal spelling. And when you are in litigation against like an insurance company, you don't necessarily see who the players are, right? You just have like the attorney's name. But the in the appellate briefs, I saw it. Vaughn and Demura Law Firm is who is defense counsel for these people. And I thought, there's no way that the Vaughns are the same, but they spelled it the same. And so I have a contact that's a private investigator. I sent the information and I got the report back and it says it's father and son, dude. And so
Oh man, you're
yeah,
kidding me?
I can't make this up, man. So
Wow.
2+ years later, I connect these dots and I played on the timeline. So I get fired June 22nd. I file my lawsuit. I think it was July 14th. It took, my lawyers to put that together. Um, if I'm very gracious with the timeline of like insurance receiving it, then calling, getting a contract with a law firm to represent defense, and then very gracious, the max window is 7 days. But the realistic time frame looks like on a Friday, dad gets hired to be defense attorney, and like Monday, son comes into work and cancels the criminal investigation and never discloses that conflict of interest. So my journey now, not only in the appellate court, is I'm putting a lot of pressure on the DA's office to reopen this criminal investigation and arrest these people for, crimes against this country
So
and
you got to go
election
to
fraud.
the attorney general's. You got to go to the state attorney general's office.
Well, good luck with Phil Weiser in Colorado, but it
Yeah, you're,
starts with the local DA, and they're
yeah,
playing ball because it's not a good look. I can tell you that.
yeah.
That deputy DA got himself fired after criminal charges of him, so he's already a stain on the DA's office. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some arrests and retaliation, which will then open up quite a bit on the litigation side. But here I am, man. I'm telling the story. I'm here to hopefully be an example of anybody that's facing something that they're not comfortable with. And I my point I wanted to close on was your email, Isaiah 6:8. We might not always be the one that says, "Hey, I'm ready, send me." We might be chosen for that, and I think that might be my path, right? I never wanted this. I never looked for it. I just was in the position, and I was of the character, whether somebody sees it as good or they see it as bad, that wouldn't give up on it and just is going to continue to fight until there's no fight left. And so that that verse jumped out to me when I saw
Oh,
your
good.
email, and I
I'm
said,
so glad.
"Man, maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I was just selected to carry this journey."
I am so glad that you noted that. And I was going to say that, if you haven't yet, to pray more. I've been where you are. I don't know if you know my story. I'm not going to go
I
tell my.
do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fast and Furious. I looked you
Okay.
up, which
And
is
so I was just like you. I just thought it was a rogue OPR guy. Actually, it was the head of the DEA who was after me. And so you're just figuring that out now too. You can't believe it goes that high,
yeah,
but it does. A federal judge tells you they didn't think this up down there. Just like at Fast and Furious, they didn't think this up in Phoenix. This didn't come out of Phoenix.
yeah,
Uh, but the evidence that I mean, it's ideal, but it's gonna, takes down the law firm. It, endangers federal judges. There's a lot there. So I can tell you, yeah, I can't speak to your faith, but my faith was greatly increased through what I went through. I'm sure yours will too, and I'm
it's
sure.
definitely been strengthened, man. I've
Yeah,
always I've tiptoed. I've been to war, which I know you have as well. I've been a father. I've been on the front lines of like being a first responder. I've seen life and death and the hair that it is, right? And so I've always had a closeness. But man, you want to talk about needing some strength and feeling support from something that doesn't exist in the world right now, right? And that there's only one thing that's faith.
yeah. Well, you need to get this story out more. You need to do local. Are you doing local news stuff? And
So now, yeah, I'm working with the local folks out there. Again, I've moved because I had to find a job. But at first it was a blackout, and now all of a sudden, I've since I started sharing the story, there's an investigative journalist digging real deep right
there you
now
go.
into some stuff. So
And what you're going to get is, so Tommy's got you out. I'll get you out. I'll send us to some other uh, liberty luminaries to get you out. But some small town local journalist. It's not going to be the big cities. Forget
yeah,
those guys. Have you seen or read Kill the Messenger?
I haven't know.
Go watch that movie with Jeremy Renner.
Okay.
Okay. And then understand that you got to stay the course because it's going to get worse. Okay, but there's a way out of this, and it's through God. And God's picked you for this, and so you're going to have to sit in pain through it, but you're going to come out of this on the other end. But it ain't going to be fun. I can tell you that right now.
It hasn't been, but I am stronger as an individual, stronger as a father, and stronger as a patriot than I was 2.5 years ago. And so, although it sucks to lose everything that you've ever worked for, man, like the rewards do come. Even in like I've gotten no victories in this, but I see what it's taught my daughters. I
Yeah.
know what it's done for me. Um,
And know they are scared to death of you because you cannot be bought or threatened. They are
yeah,
scared to death of you.
yeah, I won't go quiet. So I'm sure 2.5 years they're like, man, this guy's still hanging around. What the f? But man, 5, 10 years from now, they're still gonna be dealing with me. So like, justice will prevail, man. That's why it's called Justice for Holt. That's why I'm doing these interviews. You know, maybe Fox News will have me on one day, and I'll have a broad audience. But regardless, the journey is the journey, and I'm just gonna continue on that path. I don't
Well,
care what that journey is.
Fox is totally corrupt. You know, I haven't been on Fox since my Fast and Furious days, so don't expect much out of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather prefer some independent person that has a big audience. But you know, I'm just trying to get the more citizens of this country that want to see. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on. Integrity of our country and our constitution is what we're based on. So, if it can happen at a local jurisdiction where blatantly on high definition camera an election was cheated, then why can't it can happen in a county, it can happen in a state, and it can happen nationally. And that's
Well,
my
it did.
story.
I mean, they stole a presidency. You know, you know, 85 or 81 million votes for Pedo Joe.
Go.
That,
Yeah, but you want to know like why nobody does anything? Look at my case. It's on high definition video, and nobody's done anything. Not one person's been prosecuted.
yeah.
But I intend to change that. So
Well, so continue. My advice is really develop your faith more, pray more, because you're going to need it. But you will come out of this, but it won't be the way you think. It may not be through court. I have a friend. So when I got fired, you know, I stopped and I just went on with other stuff. I have an ATF whistleblower friend, Jay Dobbins, who just went through the court levels, and then they because they controlled the courts, even though he was right, they just
Jay, the guy that infiltrated the HAs.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
Jay Dobbins. Yeah, I worked with
Okay.
Jay. Oh, you know about him?
I
Yeah,
know the story. Yeah.
yeah. But he told me, you know, he won't come on. He's a friend, but he just won't come because he's so sick of it, and he spent like $2 million, you know, on it. You know, I dropped it and moved on, but you know, God will see you through it, but it won't be in the way you think, is what I will say.
I don't control the journey. I'm just here for it, and I'm going to stay in my morals throughout it.
Well, good for you, brother. All right. Well, I will pray for you, and I'll pass you on to some others to get you out there. And if I can be of any service, or you know, you want to run something by me, you know, don't hesitate. All right.
I appreciate you, Jeff. And if I could just plug my charity stuff
Yeah.
in, so I can hopefully get this law firm off my back and just continue to fight. But Justice for Holt on Give, Send, Go or GoFundMe. I would appreciate whether it's $1 or anything.
Yeah, I've
It
got
all
your.
adds up.
I'd go to Give, Send, Go. I know Heather. GoFundMe is corrupt. Heather's a good Christian patriot. Give, Send, Go. I've got those up, and I've got all your stuff up on my Patreon and on my locals.
Awesome. None of that will go to enriching me. It just stays in the fight. So I appreciate anybody out there. And Jeff, thank you so much, brother. Thanks for being a good patriot too and having me on.
No, thank you, and God bless, and hang in there. And if you know need anybody to talk to, give me a call.
I got your number, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, God bless. All right, tough story out there, but keep him and his girls in his prayers. Oh my gosh, so moving to hear that, and he's in the middle of it again. So remember, they murder the unborn and call it health. They burn our cities and call it justice. They stomp our flag and call it pride. They slander us in our schools and call it learning. They lie and call it truth. They call cruelty courage. They pretend intimidation is inspiration. They love to hate. They kill but are afraid to die. They have petitions, but we are not our politicians. The police are diminished, but we are not the police. They've corrupted our courts, but we are not the courts. We do not want violence. We do not want war, for we know war and we have seen violence. But they have been spoiled and coddled by those who are like them. But we are not like them, and we have had enough of them. And we will teach them justice, and they are not going to like it.